She knew three things as she stood before the pack. Her mate didn't want her, her wolf was silent, and in 60 seconds, she would become the first Omega rejected at the sacred bonding under a blood moon, a curse that would mark her for death. Sarah's hands trembled as she held them out, palms up, the traditional gesture of acceptance. The ceremonial clearing blazed with torchlight, hundreds of wolves gathered in a circle that felt more like a noose tightening around her throat. Above, the blood moon hung fat and red, casting everything in shades of copper and shadow. Marcus stood across from her, his jaw set, his eyes anywhere but on her face. Marcus Thorne, Elder Rothan's voice boomed across the clearing. Do you accept this bond? Do you claim Sarah Whitmore as your mate before the Moon Mother and these gathered packs? The silence stretched. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. She'd known Marcus since they were children. They'd grown up together, trained together. When the mate bond had snapped into place 3 months ago, it had felt like coming home. He'd smiled at her then, had pulled her close and promised her everything would be perfect. That was before her wolf failed to emerge. Again. Marcus's voice cracked. He cleared his throat, and when he spoke again, his words were stone. I reject this bond. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sarah's knees nearly buckled. The Omega is defective, Marcus continued, his voice gaining strength as he finally looked at her, through her, really, as if she were already a ghost. Her wolf sleeps. She cannot hunt, cannot fight, cannot bear strong young. I will not bind myself to weakness. Elder Rothan's face darkened. Marcus Thorne, do you understand what you invoke? Rejection under the blood moon. I understand. Marcus turned away from her, and his next words drove ice through Sarah's chest. I choose another. Lyanna Whitmore, step forward. No. No, that wasn't possible. But Lyanna emerged from the crowd, her dark hair gleaming, her warrior's body moving with liquid grace. Sarah's sister. Her beautiful, powerful, perfect sister. Lyanna wouldn't meet her eyes as she crossed the clearing to stand beside Marcus. You planned this, Sarah whispered. The words scraped out of her throat like broken glass. Both of you. Lyanna's fingers intertwined with Marcus's. I'm sorry, Sarah. But the pack needs strength. We all have our place. And yours, Marcus said coldly, is nowhere. The rejection slammed into her like a physical blow. The thin thread of the mate bond, already fraying, snapped with an audible crack inside her chest. Sarah doubled over, gasping. Pain radiated from her sternum outward, hot and sharp and utterly devastating. Inside her mind, where her wolf should have been, there was only silence. Empty, echoing silence. Sarah Whitmore. Elder Rothan's voice had gone formal, distant. You are rejected under the blood moon. By pack law, you are forsaken. You have until dawn to leave our territory. If you remain past first light, you will be hunted. Sarah lifted her head. The gathered wolves she'd known her entire life, stared at her with pity or contempt or carefully blanked faces. No one stepped forward. No one spoke in her defense. Not even her parents, standing rigid at the crowd's edge, their faces carved from shame. Go, her mother mouthed. Just that one word. Sarah ran. She bolted from the clearing, tears streaming down her face, her chest still burning from the severed bond. Behind her, she heard the ceremony resume, heard Elder Rothan's voice beginning the new bonding rites for Marcus and Lyanna. They were replacing her before she'd even left. The forest swallowed her whole. Sarah ran blindly, branches whipping at her face, roots trying to trip her. She didn't know where she was going. Didn't care. The pain in her chest was unbearable, and the silence where her wolf should have been felt like a second death. Maybe she should just let the forest take her. Maybe that would be easier than facing tomorrow, facing a world where she had no pack, no family, no mate, no future. The trees changed. It took her several minutes to notice through her tears, but the forest around her had shifted. The trunks were thicker, darker, twisted into shapes that looked almost deliberate. The air grew colder, heavier, carrying scents that made her human instinct scream danger. She stumbled to a stop, her breath coming in ragged gasps. A stone marker loomed before her, ancient and weathered, carved with symbols she recognized from childhood warnings. The boundary stone. She'd crossed into the Shadowlands. Sarah's blood turned to ice. The Shadowlands belonged to Kieran Blackthorn, the Alpha King who'd gone feral 7 years ago after slaughtering his entire pack in a fit of madness. No one entered his territory. No one who valued their life, anyway. The Shadowlands were where monsters lived, where the laws of civilization didn't reach. She needed to turn back. But behind her lay her old pack, where she was forsaken and marked for death. Behind her was Marcus and Lyanna, probably completing their bonding right now, probably not thinking of her at all. Sarah looked at the dark forest ahead. At least in the Shadowlands, death would be honest. She stepped across the boundary. The attack came instantly. Wolves, huge, savage, nothing like the civilized pack wolves she knew, exploded from the shadows. They moved like liquid violence, their eyes reflecting torchlight she couldn't see a source for. Sarah screamed and tried to run, but rough hands, human hands, grabbed her from behind. "Got a trespasser," a gravelly voice growled in her ear. Fresh from the civilized lands, by the smell of her. "Take her to him," another voice said. "He'll want to deal with this himself." "Please," Sarah gasped, struggling uselessly against the iron grip. "Please, I didn't mean, I'll leave, I'll go back." Too late for that, little Omega. You're in his territory now. You belong to the Alpha King. They dragged her deeper into the forest, her feet barely touching the ground. The trees grew more twisted, the darkness more complete. Somewhere in the distance, wolves howled, not the organized harmonies of a pack hunt, but something wild and discordant and wrong. Finally, they emerged into a clearing dominated by a massive stone fortress. It might have been grand once, but time and neglect had reduced it to a crumbling shell. Towers sagged, walls had collapsed, and ivy strangled everything in sight. The wolves hauled her through broken gates and into a great hall that still bore signs of old violence, scratches in the stone, dark stains, furniture reduced to splinters. They threw her down on the cold floor. Sarah scrambled to her knees, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. The hall stretched before her, lit by dying torches that cast more shadow than light. At the far end, on a throne that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of black stone, something moved. Not something. Someone. He rose like a nightmare taking shape, impossibly large, his body more muscle than any wolf should carry. Scars crisscrossed his bare chest and arms, dozens of them, some old and silver, some pink and recent. He moved toward her with a predator's grace, and the wolves who'd captured her melted back into the shadows, suddenly eager to be anywhere else. Sarah couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. The Alpha King circled her slowly, his footsteps silent despite his size. She caught glimpses of him in the flickering torchlight, long dark hair, matted and wild, a face that might have been handsome before whatever had broken him, and eyes, God, his eyes, that flickered between gold and pure black, like two beings fought for control behind them. He leaned down, his face close to hers, and inhaled deeply. His entire body went rigid. The circling stopped. The predatory grace vanished, replaced by something that looked almost like confusion. He stared at her, his eyes flickering faster now, gold black, and a sound rumbled from his chest that wasn't quite a growl, wasn't quite a whine. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough from disuse, barely human, scraping out like gravel over steel. Impossible. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. Sarah woke to the smell of dust and decay. Her body ached everywhere, like she'd been thrown down a mountainside. For a moment, she couldn't remember where she was or why her chest felt like someone had carved out her heart with a dull blade. Then it all came rushing back, Marcus's rejection, Lyanna's betrayal, the Blood Moon ceremony, running into the Shadowlands. The Alpha King's eyes flickering from gold to black. That single word, impossible. She tried to sit up and discovered the chains. Silver cuffs circled both wrists, connected to a long chain bolted to the stone wall behind her. The silver didn't burn, it wasn't touching her skin directly, separated by thin leather wrappings, but the message was clear. She was a prisoner. The room around her might have been grand once. High ceilings, tall windows with shattered glass, remnants of tapestries hanging in tatters on the walls. Now it was just another piece of the castle's decay, filled with broken furniture and 7 years' worth of neglect. Morning light filtered through the broken windows, pale and gray. Dawn had come. If she'd stayed in Pack territory, the hunters would be after her now. The door crashed open. Sarah scrambled backward, her chains rattling. But it wasn't the Alpha King who entered, it was a woman, small and dark-haired, carrying a tray. She moved with quick, nervous energy, her eyes darting to Sarah and then away. "I brought food," the woman said, setting the tray down just within Sarah's reach. "You should eat. He'll want to see you soon, and you'll need your strength." "Wait," Sarah lunged forward, but the chains caught her short. "Please, where am I? What's going to happen to me?" The woman was already backing toward the door. "The chains aren't for you. They're for us. So you can't run. So he knows where you are." She paused at the threshold, something almost like pity crossing her face. "The silver is to protect us, in case you're dangerous. In case you're like him." Then she was gone, the door slamming shut behind her. Sarah stared at the tray. Bread, cheese, dried meat, water. Simple food, but her stomach growled despite everything. She hadn't eaten since before the ceremony. Before her entire life had shattered. She was reaching for the bread when footsteps echoed in the hallway. Heavy footsteps, accompanied by voices. "This is madness, Kieran." A man's voice, hard and angry. "You can't keep her here. I can do whatever I want in my own territory." That voice, rough, barely controlled, sent shivers down Sarah's spine. The Alpha King. The Pack is already talking. They're saying you've gone soft, that you're keeping a pet. Some are calling her your new toy. Then they can say it to my face before I rip out their throats. The door opened. Kieran Blackthorn filled the doorway, even more massive in daylight than he'd seemed in the shadowed hall. He'd put on a shirt, though it hung open, revealing those terrible scars. His dark hair was still wild, his face still bearing that edge between man and beast. But his eyes, this morning, they were solid gold. Entirely wolf. Behind him stood another man, almost as large but more refined, with silver threading through his dark hair. He looked at Sarah with undisguised hostility. "So this is what disrupted the entire fortress last night," the second man said. "An Omega who can't even shift." Kieran's growl shook the walls. "Careful, Darius." Darius held up his hands. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. She's forsaken. Rejected under a blood moon. That kind of curse follows a wolf. Having her here puts us all at risk. Then it's a good thing I'm the Alpha and you're not." Kieran moved into the room, and Darius stayed at the door, his expression dark. The Alpha King crossed to where Sarah sat huddled against the wall, her chains gathered in her lap. He crouched down, bringing himself closer to her eye level, though he still towered over her. Up close, his face was striking beneath. Golden, brilliant, searing. She screamed. Kieran roared, trying to pull away, but the light wrapped around both of them like chains of pure sunshine. Sarah felt something inside her chest crack open, like a door that had been locked her entire life suddenly slamming wide. Her wolf. Her wolf was there, pressing against her consciousness, huge and powerful and furious at being caged for so long. But it wasn't an Omega's wolf. It wasn't small or gentle or weak. It was massive, it was ancient, and it was screaming. Kieran flew backward, hitting the opposite wall with enough force to crack the stone. The light died. Sarah collapsed, gasping, her wrist still tingling where he'd touched her. For a moment, Kieran's eyes were completely human. Brown, she realized. Beneath the gold, his eyes were brown. He stared at his hand, then at her, shock written across his scarred face. What the hell was that? Darius had his hand on a knife, his body positioned between Kieran and the door. But Kieran wasn't looking at him. He was looking at something behind Sarah, and the expression on his face was something close to fear. Sarah turned. A woman stood in the doorway, old, bent with age, her white hair hanging in thin braids. But her eyes were sharp and black as a crow's, and power radiated from her like heat from a forge. She looked at Sarah, then at Kieran, and her face went pale. Morgana, Kieran's voice came out rough. What is she? The old woman, Morgana, moved into the room with surprising speed. She grabbed Sarah's wrist, the one Kieran had touched, and turned it over. The skin there glowed faintly, golden symbols flickering beneath the surface before fading. Binding marks, Morgana whispered. Old magic. Very old. She looked up at Kieran. She's not an Omega. She's been bound. The room went silent. That's impossible, Darius said. Binding magic has been forbidden for centuries. No witch would risk. Someone did. Morgana released Sarah's wrist, but her eyes never left Sarah's face. Someone bound her wolf when she was very young, locked it away so deeply she probably doesn't remember it exists. But the binding is cracking. Has been cracking, I'd guess, for months now. Sarah's mind reeled. Bound? Her wolf was bound? I don't understand. Why would someone? Because they were afraid of what you are, Morgana said softly. Or what you might become. Memories crashed over Sarah like waves. Fragments of things she'd forgotten, or thought she'd dreamed. Her mother's face, younger, frightened, holding her down while a woman, not Morgana, someone else, chanted in a language Sarah didn't know. Her father's voice, rough with fear, they can never know what she is. Never. A woman screaming. Her mother? No, someone else. Someone who sounded like her but wasn't. I don't remember, Sarah gasped. I can't, there's something wrong with my memories. Part of the binding. Morgana straightened, her face grim. Whoever did this didn't just lock away your wolf. They locked away your memories of what happened. What you were. But bindings like this don't last forever, especially not when the subject reaches maturity. The mate bonds ceremony, she looked at Kieran. The rejection probably accelerated the breaking. Trauma weakens magical barriers. What is she? Kieran had recovered his composure, but he kept his distance from Sarah, his eyes gold again. You said she's not an Omega. So what is she? Morgana was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Not yet. But the magic used on her, I've only seen bindings that strong used on one type of wolf. She met Kieran's gaze. Alphas. Very powerful ones. The room erupted. An alpha? That's insane. Darius was shaking his head. She's tiny, she's weak, she's been suppressed her entire life, Morgana interrupted. If I'm right, her wolf has been caged since she was a child. She's never shifted because she's never been allowed to shift. But the cage is breaking now. And when it does. She trailed off, her expression troubled. When it does? Kieran pressed. When it does, we'd better hope she doesn't level this entire fortress. Sarah couldn't breathe. Alpha? That was impossible. Alphas were born, not made. You couldn't hide something like that. Could you? But even as she thought it, she felt her wolf stirring again, pressing against the barriers in her mind. And it didn't feel like an Omega's wolf. It felt like rage and power and something that had been starved for 23 years. Who would do this? Sarah whispered. Who would bind a child's wolf? Someone protecting you, Morgana said. Or someone protecting themselves from you. A howl split the morning air. Everyone froze. It wasn't the wild, discordant howling of Kieran's feral pack. This was organized, controlled. A hunting call. Darius moved to the broken window, looking out. When he turned back, his face was grim. We have company. 36 wolves, at least. They're carrying the banner of the Whitmore pack. Sarah's heart stopped. They came for me. Apparently, they take the Blood Moon rejection seriously, Darius said. They've stopped just outside the border, but they're calling challenge. They want you handed over, Kieran. They're saying you're harboring Forsaken, that it's a violation of pack law. Kieran's laugh was cold and utterly without humor. I stopped caring about pack law when the packs left me to become a monster. He looked at Sarah, his gold eyes unreadable. But they're not wrong. As long as you're here, you put everyone in this fortress at risk. My people accepted having a beast as their alpha because I'm strong enough to protect them. But harboring you? That's just liability. So throw her out, Darius said. Let the Whitmores have her. This isn't our fight. Kieran was quiet for a long moment, his eyes locked on Sarah. She could see the war raging behind them. Man and beast, fighting for control. Finally, he spoke. No. Darius stared at him. What? I said no. She stays. Kieran straightened to his full height, and suddenly he looked every inch the Alpha King. Send word to the Whitmores. Tell them Sarah Whitmore is under my protection now. She's claimed sanctuary in the Shadowlands, which is my right to grant. If they have a problem with that, they can bring it up with me. Personally. They'll call it an act of war, Darius warned. Then let them call it whatever they want. Kieran's eyes flickered black for just a moment. I haven't had a good fight in years. Another howl rose from the forest, closer this time. More insistent. Morgana touched Kieran's arm. If they attack, they'll bring all 5 regional packs down on us. We can't fight that many wolves, not with how fractured the Shadowland pack has become. Then we don't fight all of them. Just the ones stupid enough to cross my borders. He looked back at Sarah, something almost like a smile ghosting across his face. Besides, I'm curious now. I want to know what they were so afraid of that they'd bind a child's wolf. I want to know what you really are, little Omega. I'm not, Sarah started, but the words died in her throat. Because she wasn't an Omega, was she? She never had been. Her entire life had been a lie, built on magic and fear and secrets she couldn't even remember. Outside, the howls grew louder. Closer. Angry. They were coming. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 3, Awakening the Wolf Within. Morgana's workshop was buried deep in the fortress, down stone steps that spiraled into the earth like a descent into memory itself. Sarah followed the old witch, her legs unsteady, her mind still reeling from everything that had happened. Behind them, Kieran's heavy footsteps echoed. He'd insisted on coming, despite Morgana's protests. The binding is fracturing faster than I thought, Morgana said, lighting candles that filled the room with sharp, herbal smoke. Every time you experience strong emotion, every time you're under stress, it weakens further. The rejection ceremony, crossing into the Shadowlands, Kieran's touch, all of it is accelerating the break. The workshop was cluttered with dried herbs hanging from the ceiling, shelves crowded with jars of things Sarah didn't want to identify, and a large table covered in ancient books. Morgana pulled one forward, its leather cover cracked with age, and opened it to a page marked with a crimson ribbon. The Primordials, she said, turning the book so Sarah could see. The first wolves, before the packs divided, before we separated into alphas and betas and omegas. They were something else entirely. Sarah stared at the illustration. A massive wolf, neither male nor female, marked with swirling symbols that seemed to move on the page. Around it, smaller wolves bowed, their postures submissive. They could command other shifters, Morgana continued. Not with alpha authority, but with something deeper. Something in the blood itself. They could force shifts, break pack bonds, even control other wolves' actions. They were gods among us. Were? Kieran stood behind Sarah, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. The packs feared them. United for the only time in our history and hunted them down. Slaughtered them. Every primordial bloodline was supposedly eliminated 300 years ago. Morgana looked at Sarah. Apparently, they missed one. Sarah's hands shook as she touched the page. My parents knew? Your parents bound you to save your life, Morgana said gently. If the packs discovered what you were, they'd kill you. A primordial wolf hasn't walked the earth in centuries, and the old fears run deep. They'd see you as a threat to everything, the hierarchy, the pack structures, the balance of power. They'd eliminate you before you could fully awaken. But the binding, Sarah's voice cracked. Can you fix it? Strengthen it? Morgana's expression was grave. Child, the binding is killing you. Has been, slowly, for years. That's why you've been weak, why you felt incomplete. The binding isn't just suppressing your wolf, it's starving it, and in starving it, starving you. If we don't let it break, you'll die anyway. Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but soon. Your wolf is too strong to stay caged forever. The room tilted. Sarah gripped the edge of the table. So I'm dying either way? If the binding stays, I die. If it breaks. If it breaks, you'll be what you were always meant to be, Kieran said quietly. Unless the transition kills you first. How comforting, Sarah whispered. Morgana closed the book. The transformation will be agonizing. Your wolf has been compressed, suppressed, for over 20 years. When it finally emerges, it will be violent. You'll experience partial shifts, fever, hallucinations, power surges you can't control. It could take days. Maybe weeks. And there's nothing you can do to help? Kieran's hand settled on Sarah's shoulder, steadying her. I can ease the pain somewhat. But she'll need an anchor. Someone to ground her when the wolf tries to tear free. Someone strong enough to withstand her power. Morgana looked at Kieran meaningfully. Someone whose beast recognizes hers. Sarah felt Kieran's hand tighten on her shoulder. My beast is barely contained on a good day. I know. But it calms around her, doesn't it? For the first time in 7 years, you have moments of clarity. Moments of control. Morgana moved closer, her black eyes sharp. Your curse and her binding, they're connected somehow. I don't understand how yet, but the magic recognizes each other. She might be your salvation, Kieran. And you might be hers. Or we'll destroy each other, Kieran said. That too. Pain lanced through Sarah's chest, sudden and sharp. She gasped, doubling over. Her skin felt too tight, like something was trying to claw its way out from the inside. It's starting, Morgana said, moving quickly to clear the table. Get her down. Now. Kieran caught Sarah as her legs gave out. He lowered her to the floor, and she curled into herself, agony radiating through every nerve. Her bones felt like they were breaking and reforming, her muscles tearing and rebuilding. She screamed. Hold her down. Morgana was mixing something, her hands moving in a blur. Don't let her hurt herself. Kieran pinned Sarah's shoulders, his weight keeping her from thrashing. His face hovered above hers, his gold eyes suddenly the only solid thing in a world of pain. Look at me, he commanded, and there was alpha authority in his voice, but something more too. Something that bypassed her rational mind and spoke directly to the wolf clawing inside her. Stay with me, Sarah. Don't let it take you under. Her back arched. Fur rippled across her arms, then vanished. Her fingers lengthened into claws, then snapped back to human. The wolf was trying to emerge but couldn't, trapped between forms, and it was tearing her apart. Morgana forced something between Sarah's lips, bitter liquid that burned going down. The pain dulled slightly, just enough for her to breathe. The first wave is always the worst, Morgana said, but she looked worried. Her body doesn't know how to shift. It's forgotten, or never learned. The wolf knows what it wants to be, but the human form won't let go. Sarah's vision blurred. The workshop dissolved around her, replaced by fractured memories that weren't quite memories. A woman's face, her mother, but younger, terrified. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. This is the only way to keep you safe." Another face, older, covered in ritual markings. The witch who'd bound her. The primordial blood runs true in this one. If the Pax discover her, they won't. Her father's voice, hard as stone. "We'll tell them she's defective. An Omega. They'll pity her, not fear her. And when she reaches maturity, when the binding starts to break, we'll deal with that when it comes." Sarah's eyes snapped open. She was back in the workshop, still pinned beneath Kieran's weight, but the pain had receded to a dull throb. "They knew," she gasped. "My parents knew this would happen. They just hoped, they hoped I'd die before the binding broke completely." Kieran's expression darkened. "Then your parents are fools. Or cowards," Darius's voice came from the doorway. He looked disheveled, his eyes hard. "We have a bigger problem. Marcus Thorne is at the border. He's asking to speak with you, Kieran. Says it's urgent." Kieran growled, low and dangerous. "Tell him to. He says he has information about the Pax plans for Sarah. Says if you want her to survive, you'll listen to him." Sarah tried to sit up, but another wave of pain knocked her back down. "Don't. It's a trick. Marcus doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit himself." "Maybe," Darius said. "But he looks scared, Kieran. Really scared." Kieran looked down at Sarah, conflict warring across his face. "Can you watch her?" he asked Morgana. "I can manage for a short time. But if another wave hits, then send for me immediately." Kieran stood, reluctance in every movement. To Sarah, he said, "I'll be back soon. Try not to die while I'm gone." Despite everything, Sarah almost smiled. "I'll do my best." The border meeting was held in a small clearing, neutral ground. Kieran approached with Darius at his side, 6 of his strongest wolves fanned out behind them. Marcus waited with only 2 guards, but Kieran could see more hidden in the trees. So much for neutral ground. Marcus looked different than Kieran remembered from pack gatherings years ago. Older, harder, with shadows under his eyes. He stood straight, but there was tension in his shoulders, like a man expecting a blow. "You have 5 minutes, Kieran said. "Before I decide killing you is worth the political fallout. I deserve that." Marcus's voice was steady despite the fear Kieran could smell on him. "I deserve worse. But this isn't about me. It's about Sarah. She doesn't want to see you. I know. And I don't blame her. But she needs to know what's coming." Marcus took a breath. "Her father, Alpha Cordell, he knows what she is. Has known all along. The binding was his idea." Kieran's eyes flickered black. "Keep talking. There's a prophecy. Ancient, from before the pack divisions. It speaks of a primordial rising beneath the blood moon's 3rd crossing, with the power to either unite all wolves or destroy them. Most thought it was myth. But Cordell, he's obsessed with it. Has been searching for primordial bloodlines for decades. And he found one in his own daughter." "His wife's daughter," Marcus corrected. Sarah's mother was from a distant pack, a small one that was wiped out by rogues when Sarah was young. Cordell discovered his wife's lineage after they'd already mated, after Sarah was born. He could have exposed them both, had them executed. Instead, he bound Sarah's wolf and kept the secret. How generous, Kieran said coldly. He was waiting. Biding his time until Sarah reached maturity, until the binding weakened enough that her powers would emerge but she'd be desperate enough to turn to him for help. Marcus's hands clenched. The rejection ceremony was planned. Lyanna seduced me months ago, convinced me that Sarah was too weak, that I deserved better. I thought, he stopped, his jaw tight. I thought I was making a choice. I didn't know I was being manipulated. You still made the choice, Darius growled. I did. And I'll carry that shame until I die. But Sarah's running out of time. Marcus pulled a folded paper from his jacket and held it out. The third blood moon is 3 weeks away. Cordell has convinced the other pack alphas that Sarah is a threat, that she needs to be brought to heel before she awakens fully. They're not coming to negotiate, Kieran. They're coming with an army. Kieran took the paper. It was a formal declaration, signed by all 5 regional alphas. The primordial bloodline is a threat to pack stability and must be contained. Sarah Whitmore is to be surrendered to pack authority for assessment and binding. Failure to comply will be considered an act of war against all unified packs. They want to bind her again, Kieran said slowly. Permanently this time. Or kill her if she resists. They're calling her a weapon that needs to be controlled. Marcus met Kieran's eyes. I came here because, despite everything, I can't let that happen to her. She deserves better. She deserves to know the truth, to make her own choices. But you need to prepare. They're coming in force, and they won't stop until they have her. Kieran crumpled the paper in his fist. Then they'll have to go through me first. They will. And they'll destroy the Shadowlands to do it. Marcus stepped back. I've said what I came to say. What you do with it is your choice. But Kieran, she's more powerful than any of us understand. If she fully awakens, unbound and uncontrolled, she could tear this world apart. Then I'll make sure she doesn't. Marcus looked like he wanted to say more, but footsteps crashed through the forest behind Kieran. One of his wolves, eyes wide with panic. Alpha. It's the girl, she's shifting. Morgana can't hold her. She's destroying the workshop. Kieran ran. He could hear the destruction before he reached the workshop. Roaring, crashing, the sound of stone breaking. He took the stairs 3 at a time and burst through the doorway into chaos. The workshop was in ruins. Shelves had been torn from the walls, books scattered, jars shattered. Morgana stood pressed against the far wall, her hands raised in a protective ward that flickered with blue light. And in the center of the room, Sarah was transforming. But it wasn't a normal shift. Her body was caught between forms, stretched and distorted. White fur rippled across her skin in patches, her face elongating into a muzzle before snapping back to human. Her hands were claws, her eyes blazing with golden light that had nothing human in it. Ancient markings, the same ones from Morgana's book, glowed across her skin wherever the fur appeared. She saw Kieran and lunged. He barely dodged, her claws missing his throat by inches. The wolf inside her was pure instinct, all predator, recognizing him as a threat or a rival or maybe just the only thing strong enough to fight. Sarah, he shouted, but she wasn't Sarah anymore. She was something ancient and wild, something that had been caged too long and was now tearing free with all the rage of 23 years of imprisonment. She came at him again, and this time Kieran let his own beast rise to meet her. The transformation took him in a heartbeat. Bones reshaping, muscles expanding, the curse that had plagued him for 7 years flooding through his body. But this time, instead of losing himself to the beast's madness, he held on to a thread of consciousness. Held on to the image of Sarah's terrified face, the girl beneath the monster. His beast, massive, black as midnight, scarred and terrible, met her mid-leap. They collided with the force of an avalanche. Claws and teeth, snarling and snapping. Sarah's half-formed wolf was smaller but faster, rage giving her strength. She tore into his shoulder, and Kieran roared, throwing her off. She landed in a crouch, her eyes, still partially human, locked on him with primal intensity. This wasn't a fight. It was something older, something written in their blood. A dance of dominance and recognition, two powerful wolves meeting as equals for the first time. They circled each other. Sarah's wolf was beautiful and terrifying, silver-white with those glowing markings, a creature from legend. She growled, low and challenging, and Kieran's beast responded, not with dominance, but with acknowledgement. I see you. I know you. I recognize what you are. Sarah attacked again, but this time Kieran was ready. He caught her, using his weight to bring them both down, pinning her without hurting her. She thrashed beneath him, snapping at his throat, but he held firm, his jaws closing gently on the back of her neck. Not a killing bite, a mate's hold, a gesture of both dominance and protection. She went still. Kieran felt her heart hammering beneath him, felt the tremors running through her body. The ancient markings on her fur pulsed in rhythm with his own heartbeat. Slowly, carefully, he released her neck and pulled back. Sarah's wolf stared at him, those golden eyes clearing slightly. Recognition flickered there, and something else. Something that made his beast rumble with satisfaction. Then she began to shift back. It was painful to watch. Her body fighting itself, the wolf reluctant to be caged again but exhausted from the battle. Fur receded, bones reformed, and suddenly Sarah was human again, naked and trembling on the workshop floor. Kieran shifted back as well, the transition easier than it had been in years. He grabbed a cloak from where it had fallen and draped it over her, his hands gentle despite their size. Sarah looked up at him, her eyes, back to their human brown, filled with tears. I can't control it, she whispered. I tried, but it's too strong. I'm too strong. I'm going to hurt someone. No. Kieran pulled her against his chest, and she came, shaking. His arms wrapped around her, holding her together while she fell apart. You won't. I won't let you. You can't promise that. I can. I will. He tilted her face up, making her look at him. His eyes were fully human now, brown and clear and full of something he'd thought died 7 years ago. You're not my prisoner anymore, Sarah. You're not a weapon or a tool or a prophecy. He stopped, the words catching in his throat. What? She asked, her voice breaking. What am I? Kieran's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away a tear. You're my damnation. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to examine. Above them, Morgana cleared her throat and they both jumped, suddenly aware of Darius standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. We have 3 weeks, Darius said quietly. Before the army comes. Before the blood moon rises. 3 weeks to figure out how to survive this. Kieran stood, pulling Sarah up with him, keeping the cloak wrapped around her. Then we'd better get started. But as he led her from the ruined workshop, his hands still on her shoulder, he knew that the real threat wasn't the army coming for them. It was what was growing between them, this connection, this recognition, this bond that shouldn't exist but did. Because when the battle came, when he had to choose between protecting his people and protecting her, he already knew which choice he'd make. And that terrified him more than anything. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The war room in the Shadowlands fortress had seen better days, better centuries, really, but it served its purpose. Maps covered the large stone table, some so old they showed territories that no longer existed. Kieran stood at the head, his hands braced on the table's edge, staring at the convergence points marked in red. 5 packs. Hundreds of wolves. All coming for one girl. It's suicide, Darius said for the 3rd time. The ancient right of kings hasn't been invoked in over a century. Most wolves don't even know it exists anymore. Then they'll learn. Kieran's voice was rough. He'd barely slept in the 3 days since Sarah's first transformation. Every night, he'd held her through the pain as her wolf tried to break free, his presence the only thing keeping her grounded. Every night, he felt his own beast respond to hers, the connection between them deepening in ways he didn't understand and couldn't afford to examine. The rite requires you to fight in human form, Morgana said quietly from her corner. She looked exhausted, her face lined with worry. Until the final challenge, you can't shift. Can't use your beast's strength. Just human strength and skill against 5 pack champions. I know the rules. Do you? Darius moved around the table, his expression fierce. Because I'm not sure you understand what you're really proposing. You're unstable, Kieran. The curse is getting worse, not better. Yesterday, you shifted 3 times without meaning to. Your eyes haven't been fully human in days. How are you supposed to maintain control through 5 consecutive battles? Kieran's hands clenched on the table. I'll manage. And if you don't? If the beast takes over mid-fight? You'll be disqualified, executed on the spot, and Sarah will be taken anyway. Then I won't let the beast take over. That's not a strategy. Darius slammed his hand on the table. That's wishful thinking from a man who's already half mad. Kieran moved so fast Darius didn't have time to react. One moment they were on opposite sides of the table, the next, Kieran had Darius pinned against the wall, his forearm across the other man's throat. His eyes flickered gold, the beast pressing against his control. She's mine, Kieran growled, and his voice was more animal than man. Mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. And I will burn this world down before I let them take her. Kieran. Sarah's voice cut through the madness like a blade. Let him go. She stood in the doorway, wrapped in one of his shirts, her hair loose around her shoulders. 3 days of transformations had left her pale and tired, but her eyes were steady as they met his. Just the sight of her, the sound of her voice, was enough to pull him back from the edge. Kieran released Darius and stepped away, his hands shaking. I'm sorry. Darius rubbed his throat, but his expression was more sad than angry. This is what I'm talking about. You're losing yourself, and she's the trigger. The closer you get to her, the worse it becomes. I know. Kieran couldn't look at Sarah. But I don't know how to stop it. Sarah moved into the room, her bare feet silent on the stone. Maybe you're not supposed to stop it. Maybe, she hesitated, then continued. Maybe we're connected somehow. My binding breaking, your curse getting worse. The timing can't be coincidence. Morgana's been researching that, Kieran said. She thinks there might be a link, but we don't have enough information. Then get more information. Sarah's voice turned hard. Because I'm not letting you die for me, Kieran. Not in some ancient ritual, not fighting 5 champions. If there's a connection between us, we need to understand it before you walk into that arena. The rite is in 10 days, Darius said. We don't have time for research. Then we make time. Sarah looked at Morgana. What do you need? The old witch was quiet for a moment, studying Sarah with those sharp black eyes. Blood. From both of you. And access to the binding spell that was used on you. If I can examine the original magic, I might be able to trace its origins, see if it connects to Kieran's curse. My parents might have records, Sarah said slowly. But I can't exactly walk up to their territory and ask. No, Kieran agreed. But I can send someone. Someone they won't immediately attack. Marcus, Darius said, understanding. He owes us. And he's still technically part of the Whitmore pack. He could get in and out without raising alarms. Kieran nodded. Send word. Tell him what we need. A commotion outside made them all turn. Shouting, the clash of weapons, and then a voice Sarah recognized made her blood run cold. I'm here to see my sister. And I'm not leaving until I do. Lyanna. They brought her into the fortress in chains, silver, like the ones Sarah had worn. Lyanna looked different than she had at the bonding ceremony. Her warrior's confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like fear. Her dark hair was tangled, her clothes torn, and bruises mottled her arms. "What happened to you?" Sarah asked before she could stop herself. Lyanna's laugh was bitter. "Our father happened. When I told him I was coming here, that I needed to talk to you, he tried to stop me. We fought. I won, obviously, but," she looked down at her chains. "I figured showing up bound would make it clear I'm not here to fight." "Why are you here?" Kieran stood between Lyanna and Sarah, his body language protective. "You helped Marcus reject her. You stood by and watched while they cast her out." "I know. And I've regretted it every day since." Lyanna's eyes found Sarah's. "But I didn't have a choice. None of this, nothing that's happened to you, has been real, Sarah. Your whole life has been a lie." Sarah's heart started to pound. "What are you talking about? I'm not your sister. I never was." Lyanna took a shuddering breath. "I'm your guardian. The old Pack Council placed me with your family when you were a baby. My job was to watch you, report on your development, make sure the binding held." The room went silent. "That's insane," Sarah whispered. "I have memories of you. Growing up together, playing as children. Implanted. False memories, woven by the same witch who bound your wolf. She made sure you'd accept me, trust me, never question why I was there." Lyanna's voice broke. "But over the years, something changed. You became real to me. Not a mission, not an assignment. My sister, even if we didn't share blood. And when I realized what they were planning, what father was planning, I couldn't go through with it." "What was he planning?" Kieran's voice was deadly quiet. Lyanna looked at him, and Sarah saw genuine fear in her eyes. "Alpha Cordell isn't Sarah's father. He murdered her real parents 23 years ago, during the final purge of the primordial bloodlines. Sarah's mother managed to hide her before she died, and Cordell found her in the ruins. He should have killed her. That was his mission. But he saw an opportunity instead." Sarah's legs gave out. She would have collapsed if Kieran hadn't caught her, his arms wrapping around her from behind, holding her up. "He took you home," Lyanna continued, her voice thick with emotion. "Convinced his mate to claim you as their daughter. Had the witch bind your wolf so deeply you'd never know what you were. Raised you to be weak, submissive, forgettable. An Omega no one would look at twice." "Why?" Sarah's voice came out barely above a whisper. "If he hated what I was, why not just kill me? Because he didn't hate what you were. He wanted to control it. Use it." Lyanna looked at Kieran again. "The curse on you, it's not random. It was cast by the same witch who bound Sarah, on Alpha Cordell's orders. 20 years ago, right after your pack was slaughtered." Kieran's arms tightened around Sarah. "What?" "The curse and the binding are two halves of the same spell. Connected. Interdependent." Lyanna's words came faster now, urgent. "Cordell wanted to create a weapon, a primordial wolf under his control, and a beast to wield her when the time came. He cursed you to be that beast, Kieran. He arranged for your pack's destruction, had his witch curse you with the beast madness, all so that when Sarah's binding finally broke, you'd be there. Mad enough to be controlled, powerful enough to be useful, and bound to her by magic neither of you understood. That's why the beast recognizes her," Morgana breathed. "That's why he calms around her. They're two parts of the same spell, seeking completion." Sarah pulled away from Kieran, turning to face him. His eyes were pure gold, his face twisted with rage and disbelief. "You knew my pack. Before they died. Before he couldn't finish." "I knew of them," Lyanna said. "I was 15 when it happened. Still in training. But I heard the stories. How the Alpha King went mad and slaughtered everyone. How you were the only survivor, Cursed to become a beast yourself. She paused. It wasn't madness, was it? It was the curse taking hold. Cordell's witch poisoned your mind, made you see threats where there were none, until you destroyed everything you loved. Kieran made a sound like something dying. Sarah reached for him, but he backed away, his hands coming up as if to ward her off. Don't, he said. Don't touch me. I killed them. My pack, my family, everyone. His voice broke. I killed them because of a curse meant to bind me to you. Because of what you are. It's not her fault, Darius said sharply. She was a baby. She had no part in this. I know that. Kieran's eyes were anguished. But it doesn't change what I did. What I am. I'm the weapon they created, and being near her, being connected to her, it's making me worse, not better. No. Morgana stood, her voice firm. The connection is what's keeping you sane. Without her, you'd have lost yourself completely years ago. The curse wants you mad and controllable. But the part of the spell that binds you to Sarah, that's giving you something to hold on to. Someone to fight for. And what happens when we complete the bond? Kieran asked. When we give in to what's building between us? What then? Morgana's silence was answer enough. Tell us, Sarah demanded. We need to know. If you complete the mate bond before breaking both curses, Morgana said slowly, you'll be bound together in the spell. Your madness will feed hers, her power will fuel yours, and you'll both be lost. The weapon Cordell wanted to create will finally exist, a primordial wolf and her beast, powerful beyond measure and completely insane. Controllable by whoever holds the key to the original spell. Cordell, Sarah whispered. Cordell, Lyanna confirmed. That's why he wants you back. Why he's bringing an army. The third blood moon is when the spell reaches its full power. If he can claim you both before then, he'll have everything he's worked 20 years to achieve. Sarah looked at Kieran, and the devastation on his face mirrored what she felt. Everything between them, every moment of connection, every time he'd held her through her transformations, every look and touch and whispered word, all of it was because of a spell. A manipulation. They weren't choosing each other, they were being forced together by dark magic. There has to be a way to break it, Darius said. Some way to sever the spell. There is, Morgana said. But it requires finding the original casting site and the anchor object the witch used. Without those, the curse and binding are permanent. Then we find them. Kieran's voice was flat, emotionless. We have 10 days before the rite. We find the casting site, we break the spell, and then, he stopped. And then what? Sarah asked. What happens to us if the spell breaks? You'll be free, Lyanna said quietly. Both of you. Your binding will fall away completely, your wolf will be fully your own. And Kieran's curse will lift. He'll be just an alpha again, no beast, no madness. But the connection between us will disappear, Kieran finished. His eyes met Sarah's, and she saw grief there, deep and aching. Whatever we feel for each other, it's the spell. When it breaks, so will this. Sarah's heart cracked. She wanted to argue, wanted to say that what she felt was real, but how could she know? Every time her chest tightened when she looked at him, every time her wolf reached for his beast, every moment of comfort she found in his presence, was any of it real? Or was it all just dark magic pulling them together like puppets on strings? We should break it anyway, she said, forcing the words out. Even if it means, even if she couldn't finish. I know. Kieran turned away. I'll send Marcus to your father's territory tonight. We'll find what we need and break this curse. And then we'll both be free. He left the room before anyone could say more, his footsteps echoing through the corridor. Sarah stood frozen, her throat tight with unshed tears. Free. She should want that. Should want to be herself, unburdened by magic and manipulation. But the thought of losing Kieran, of losing this connection, even if it was false, felt like losing a limb. "I'm sorry," Lyanna said softly. "For all of it. For the lies, for my part in this. For what I'm about to tell you." Sarah looked at her. "What?" "The rite is still happening. Even if you break the curse, Cordell is coming with his army. He won't just let you walk away. You're too valuable, and he's invested too much." Lyanna's chains rattled as she shifted. "And Sarah, even if the connection to Kieran is broken, even if your wolf is fully freed, you're still going to need someone powerful enough to stand with you against 5 packs. Someone willing to die for you. Are you saying I should let him fight in the rite even after we break the curse?" "I'm saying you might not have a choice. Cordell is coming in 7 days, not 10. He lied about the timeline, wanted to catch you unprepared." Lyanna's eyes were desperate. "You have 7 days to break a 20-year-old curse, master a primordial wolf you barely understand, and prepare for a war. And Sarah, if you can't do all of that, Cordell wins. And he'll use both of you to burn this world down." Sarah found Kieran on the battlements, staring out at the forest. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of red and gold. Blood moon colors. She stood beside him, not speaking, just existing in the same space. After a long moment, his hand found hers. "I'm still going to fight in the rite," he said quietly. "Even if we break the curse. Even if this," he squeezed her hand. "Even if this isn't real." "Why?" "Because you deserve to be free. To make your own choices, live your own life. And if dying in an arena is what it takes to give you that," he looked at her, and his eyes were brown and gold and full of something that made her chest ache. "Then it's worth it." "Don't say that." Sarah's voice broke. "Don't talk like you're already dead." "I'm already dead, Sarah. Have been for 7 years. You just made me feel alive again, even if it was only because of a spell." He pulled her closer, his other hand coming up to cup her face. "But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "If I lose control during the rite, if the beast takes over, don't use your power to save me. Don't interfere. Let me die, and you run. Run as far and as fast as you can, and don't let them take you." "I can't promise that." "You have to." His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "Because if you use your primordial power to save me, they'll kill you. They'll claim you're too dangerous, and they'll execute you on the spot." "I can't," his voice cracked. "I can't watch you die because of me." Sarah pressed her forehead to his. "And I can't watch you die at all." They stood like that as the sun set, holding each other against the coming darkness. When Kieran finally kissed her, it was desperate and gentle and tasted like goodbye. Sarah kissed him back with everything she had, trying to memorize the feel of him, the taste of him, just in case Lyanna was wrong and the connection between them was real. They made their way back to his chambers, neither willing to let go. The night stretched before them, possibly their last night before everything changed. Before curses broke and truths came to light and they discovered whether what they felt was love or just magic. In the morning, Morgana would begin the ritual to break the spell. Marcus would return with whatever he'd found in Cordell's territory. And in 7 days, an army would arrive at their gates. But tonight, they had each other. And spell or not, curse or not, that had to be enough. Dawn came too soon. Sarah woke wrapped in Kieran's arms, his heartbeat steady beneath her ear. For a moment, she let herself pretend this was real. That they were just two people who'd found each other, not weapons created by dark magic. Then Morgana's voice echoed through the fortress, urgent and afraid. "They're here. The packs are here. 7 days early, they're at the gates." Kieran was up and moving before Sarah could process the words. He pulled on clothes, his movements sharp and efficient. Through the window, Sarah could hear it, war drums. Hundreds of them, beating in synchronized rhythm. "It's not possible," Kieran said, strapping on weapons. "We have 7 days." Lyanna was wrong. Or she lied. Darius burst through the door. 5 packs, full army formations. They're flying challenge banners. They're not here to negotiate, Kieran. They're here for blood. Kieran's eyes met Sarah's across the room. In them, she saw resignation and determination and that same terrible grief. The right, he said. It starts today. And as if summoned by his words, a voice boomed across the valley, magically amplified to reach every corner of the Shadowlands. Kieran Blackthorn, Beast of the Shadowlands. We invoke the ancient right of kings. Surrender the primordial called Sarah Whitmore, or face our champions in combat. You have 1 hour to decide. Kieran walked to the window, and Sarah joined him. Below, spread across the valley like a living carpet, were hundreds of wolves. 5 packs, united in purpose. At their heads stood 5 alphas, and in the center. Father, Sarah whispered. Alpha Cordell stood tall and proud, his graying hair pulled back, his face carved from stone. Even from this distance, she could feel his eyes on her. Assessing. Calculating. Seeing her not as a daughter but as the weapon he'd spent decades creating. 1 hour, Kieran said quietly. He turned to her, and his eyes flickered gold. I need you to promise me again, Sarah. Promise you won't interfere. Promise you'll let me do this. Sarah wanted to promise. Wanted to give him the words he needed. But as she looked at the army below, at the impossible odds, at the man she'd come to love? Was it love, or just the spell? She knew she couldn't. I promise, she lied. Because when it came down to it, when Kieran was dying in that arena and she had the power to save him, she knew exactly what she'd do. She'd burn the whole world down first. Kieran walked toward the door, toward the arena, toward 5 champions and almost certain death. Sarah watched him go, her wolf howling inside her, straining against the binding that still held. 1 hour. They had 1 hour before everything changed. And Morgana's warning echoed in her mind. If you complete the mate bond before breaking both curses, you'll be bound together in madness. But what was the alternative? Watching him die? Living free but alone, knowing she could have saved him? Sarah looked down at her hands. Golden light flickered beneath her skin, responding to her emotions. Her wolf pressed against the binding, and for the first time, she didn't try to push it back down. Maybe madness was better than this. Maybe burning together was better than freezing apart. The war drums beat on, counting down the seconds to Kieran's battle. And Sarah made her choice. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The arena was older than the fortress itself, a circular pit carved into the earth by wolves long dead, its stone walls stained with centuries of blood. Sarah stood at the edge of the spectator rise, her hands gripping the railing so hard her knuckles went white. Below, Kieran stood in the center of the arena, stripped to the waist, his scars vivid in the morning light. 5 champions faced him from the opposite side. All of them were massive, chosen from the strongest warriors each pack had to offer. And somewhere in the crowd of hundreds surrounding the arena, Alpha Cordell watched with hungry eyes. The ancient right of kings. Elder Rothan's voice carried across the assembled wolves. He looked older than he had at the rejection ceremony, bent beneath the weight of what was happening. Let all who witness bear testimony. Kieran Blackthorn, Alpha King of the Shadowlands, has invoked his right to combat for the freedom of Sarah Whitmore. 5 champions stand against him. He must defeat them all, in human form, to earn victory. If he falls, his territory is forfeit, his pact dissolved, and Sarah Whitmore surrenders to pack justice. Morgana appeared at Sarah's side, her face grave. The curse is unstable. I can see it from here, his aura flickers between man and beast. He won't last through all 5 champions. He has to, Sarah whispered. But even as she said it, she felt her wolf rising, pressing against the binding with desperate urgency. Something was wrong. Something beyond the right itself. The first champion stepped forward, a massive beta from the northern pack, all muscle and confidence. The fight began without ceremony. Kieran moved like water, like violence made graceful. He'd been fighting since he could walk, had survived 7 years of madness and isolation. The northern champion was strong, but Kieran was survival itself. Within minutes, the champion was on the ground, yielding. The crowd roared. 1 down, 4 to go. The second champion was faster, a warrior from the eastern pack who relied on speed over strength. Kieran took more hits this time, blood streaming from a cut above his eye, but he adapted, learned, and ultimately prevailed. The champion yielded. But Sarah could see what the crowd couldn't. Kieran's eyes were flickering faster now. Gold black, gold black. His movements were becoming more aggressive, less controlled. The beast was rising. He won't make it, Darius said from behind her. He'd been silent until now, watching with the grim expression of someone witnessing an execution. 3 more champions, and he's already losing control. Shut up, Sarah snapped. He'll make it. He has to. The third champion from the southern pack was circling Kieran now, fresh and ready. This one was tactical, patient, wearing Kieran down with quick strikes and retreats. Kieran was breathing hard, his chest heaving, blood dripping from multiple wounds. But he kept fighting, kept pushing, until finally he caught the champion with a devastating combination that left the wolf unconscious. 3 down. 2 to go. Kieran stood in the center of the arena, swaying slightly. His eyes were more black than gold now, his face twisted with the effort of maintaining control. Sarah's wolf howled inside her, throwing itself against the binding. Help him. Save him. He's ours. No. She'd promised not to interfere. Using her power would void his claim, would prove to the packs that she was too dangerous. She had to trust him. Had to let him finish this. The fourth champion stepped forward, and Sarah's blood turned to ice. It was Marcus. He looked haunted as he entered the arena, his eyes finding Sarah's across the distance. She saw regret there, and guilt, and something that might have been an apology. But he still moved toward Kieran, his body language resigned. Cordell's move, Morgana muttered. Marcus is bound by pack law to serve as champion if called. And Cordell knows the guilt will make him hesitate, make Kieran's victory easier. But it's also a message, see what your choices have cost everyone. Marcus and Kieran circled each other. They'd been allies once, at pack gatherings, before everything fell apart. Now they were just 2 wolves trapped in someone else's game. I'm sorry, Marcus said, loud enough for the front rows to hear. For all of it. Sorry doesn't change anything, Kieran replied. His voice was rough, more growl than speech. Fight or yield. Marcus fought. But his heart wasn't in it, and Kieran, even exhausted, even losing himself to the beast, was stronger. The fight ended with Marcus on his back, Kieran's hand at his throat. Yield, Kieran growled. I yield, Marcus gasped. 4 down. 1 to go. But as Marcus retreated, Elder Rathan raised his hand. The final champion has been selected by unanimous vote of the 5 pack alphas. As is their right under the right, they have chosen. The arena doors crashed open. They weren't doors made for wolves. They were cage doors, and what came through them made Sarah's wolf scream in terror. Silver-poisoned beasts. 3 of them. They'd once been wolves, but corruption had twisted them into nightmares. Their fur was matted and falling out in patches, their eyes milky white, foam dripping from their jaws. Silver poisoning drove wolves mad, destroyed their ability to shift, trapped them in a permanent state of agony and rage. These creatures had been tortured, deliberately poisoned, and set loose in the arena. This is against the rules. Darius roared. The right requires single combat, not. The rules state the final challenge may be of the alpha's choosing, Cordell's voice rang out. He stood from his place among the pack leaders, his expression cold. We choose this. The Beast King can fight beasts. Let's see how well his control holds against creatures that share his madness. This is murder. Sarah screamed, but her voice was lost in the chaos. The silver beasts attacked. Kieran fought, but he was exhausted, wounded, and the silver in their blood, even their saliva, was poison to regular wolves. One bite, one scratch, and he'd be contaminated. He'd become like them. Sarah watched in horror as Kieran dodged and struck, trying to fight without being touched. But there were 3 of them, and he was alone, and the beast inside him was clawing for freedom, triggered by the feral creatures before him. We have to stop this, Morgana said urgently. If those creatures contaminate him. If I interfere, he loses. Sarah's hands blazed with golden light, her power responding to her panic. If I use my power, they'll kill him anyway for failing the rite. If you don't use your power, those creatures will kill him first. One of the silver beasts lunged. Its teeth caught Kieran's shoulder, tearing deep. Kieran roared, a sound that was more animal than human, and his body began to shift. No. Not shift. Transform. The curse was taking him completely. His body expanded, bones breaking and reforming, but it wasn't the controlled transformation of a regular wolf. This was the beast, the feral, savage creature that had destroyed his pack 7 years ago. The thing that had lived in his nightmares. The crowd backed away, their fear palpable. Even the silver beasts hesitated, recognizing something more dangerous than themselves. And inside Sarah, her binding finally shattered. It didn't crack or fracture. It exploded. 23 years of suppressed power burst free all at once, and Sarah screamed as her wolf surged forward. Golden light erupted from her body, so bright the wolves around her had to shield their eyes. Her transformation was nothing like Kieran's tortured change. Her wolf emerged as if it had been waiting just beneath her skin all along, powerful and ancient and absolutely furious. Silver-white fur, massive beyond any normal wolf, with those ancient markings glowing across her body like living runes. She leaped into the arena before thought could stop her. The primordial had arrived. Sarah's wolf moved with predatory grace, putting herself between Kieran's beast and the silver poison creatures. Her power radiated outward in waves, and every wolf present felt it, the crushing weight of ancient authority, the irresistible pull of absolute dominance. She could feel them all. Every wolf in the assembled packs, their consciousness like strings she could pull. Their wolves recognized her for what she was, their origin, their source. A primordial. The first and most powerful, capable of commanding them all. Kneel, her wolf commanded, and it wasn't a request. Hundreds of wolves dropped to their knees, unable to resist. Their wolves submitted automatically, instinctively, recognizing their better. Even the silver beasts froze, whimpering, their madness momentarily overwhelmed by something older and stronger. Only 2 wolves remained standing, Alpha Cordell, his face twisted with triumph, and Kieran's beast, which circled her with confusion and recognition warring in its black eyes. Yes. Cordell's voice rang across the arena. Finally. The weapon reveals itself. He stood tall, pulling something from his jacket, an amulet that pulsed with dark energy. 23 years I've waited for this moment. 23 years of planning, of patience. And now, my daughter, you will. I'm not your daughter, Sarah's wolf snarled, and her voice was multi-layered, ancient and young at once. You murdered my parents. You stole me. You bound me. And you think I'll serve you? Cordell's smile didn't waver. You don't have a choice. The amulet holds the anchor of your binding spell. Through it, I can control you. Force you to use your power however I command. You were made to be a weapon, Sarah. My weapon. And together with the beast, he gestured to Kieran's massive form. You'll unite the packs under my rule. Or burn them all. Either way, I win. He raised the amulet, beginning to chant. Pain lanced through Sarah's wolf. The binding might be broken, but its anchor still existed, still had power over her. She felt her will beginning to bend, her power turning against her intention. Then Lyanna stepped into the arena. She'd freed herself from the silver chains somehow, and she moved with purpose, blood streaming from where the silver had burned her wrists. The anchor isn't in the amulet, Cordell. It never was. Cordell's chanting stopped. What? I said the anchor isn't in the amulet. The witch gave you a fake, all those years ago. She gave me the real one. Lyanna pulled something from inside her shirt, a small crystal that pulsed with the same dark energy as Cordell's amulet, but stronger. She gave it to me because she knew that someday, you'd try to use Sarah. And she wanted someone who actually loved Sarah's mother to have the power to stop you. You're lying. But Cordell's voice wavered. I'm not. And there's something else you don't know about the curse. Lyanna looked at Sarah, then at Kieran's beast. The prophecy you're so obsessed with, unite the packs or burn them all. You always assumed it meant Sarah would dominate everyone, force submission through power. But that's not what it means. Morgana appeared at the arena's edge, understanding dawning on her face. The third option. There's always been a third option. What option? Sarah demanded, her wolf form trembling with the effort of resisting Cordell's incomplete control. The curse binding you to Kieran, it was designed with a failsafe, Lyanna said urgently. The witch who cast it, she hated what Cordell made her do. So she built in an escape. If a primordial and a beast king willingly share the curse equally, accepting both the humanity and the wildness, they can become something new. Balanced alphas. True equals. The prophecy doesn't mean you'll dominate the packs, it means you'll show them a new way forward. Balance instead of hierarchy. Partnership instead of dominance. That's insane, Cordell spat. It's never been done. It's impossible. It's impossible because it requires absolute trust, Morgana said, her voice carrying across the arena. Something you made sure Sarah would never have. You isolated her, broke her, convinced her she was worthless. You ensured Kieran would be too mad to trust anyone. But, she looked at Sarah and Kieran. You failed. They found each other anyway. Sarah's wolf turned to Kieran's beast. It circled her still, massive and terrible, mostly creature now with only flickers of the man remaining. But in its black eyes, she saw recognition. Saw Kieran, trapped inside, fighting the madness. Trust me, her wolf whispered to his beast. Trust me, and we can both be free. The beast growled, uncertain. Kill them. Cordell screamed. All pack wolves, I command you, kill the primordial and the beast. But the wolves on their knees didn't move. Couldn't move. Sarah's power held them frozen, and more than that, they were watching. Waiting. Sensing that something monumental was about to happen. The crystal, Lyanna, Morgana called. Break it now. Lyanna raised the crystal high. This breaks the anchor. Frees you both from Cordell's influence. But Sarah, you have to choose. You can take all the power for yourself, dominate everyone, become the weapon he wanted. Or I can trust him, Sarah finished. Share the curse. Accept the balance. If you fail, you'll both be lost to madness, Morgana warned. You'll become the monsters everyone fears. Sarah's wolf looked at Kieran's beast. At the creature he'd become because of her, because of what she was. She could feel his struggle, feel the man inside trying to surface. She'd been broken, called defective, rejected and cast out. He'd been cursed, driven mad, forced to destroy everything he loved. They were both weapons someone else had tried to forge. But weapons could choose not to cut. Sarah shifted back to human form, standing naked and unafraid in the center of the arena. The golden light of her primordial power swirled around her, but she didn't use it to dominate. Didn't force anyone. She simply stood, arms open, looking at the massive beast before her. Kieran, she said softly. I see you. Not the beast. Not the weapon. I see the man who held me through my transformations. Who offered me sanctuary when everyone else wanted me dead. Who was willing to die in this arena for my freedom. Tears streaked down her face. I'm not afraid of your darkness. I'm not afraid of your beast. Because my wolf recognizes it. Knows it. Loves it. The beast stopped circling. It stared at her, and slowly, so slowly, its form began to shrink. I choose trust, Sarah continued. I choose you. Not because a spell tells me to, but because when I look at you, I see home. I see someone who understands what it means to be broken and still fight to be whole. She took a step forward. Share this with me. The power, the curse, the wildness. Let's be broken together until we figure out how to be whole. Kieran's beast collapsed to its knees, and suddenly he was shifting back, fighting his way to human form through sheer force of will. The transformation was agonizing, his body not wanting to give up the beast, but he forced it. When he finally stood before her, human again, covered in blood and scars, his eyes flickering but clear. He managed a broken smile. You're supposed to run from monsters, he rasped. You're not a monster. You're mine. The crystal. Morgana shouted. Now, Lyanna. Lyanna shattered the crystal against the arena floor. The explosion of magic was silent but devastating. Every wolf felt it, the anchor breaking, the curse fracturing, ancient power seeking new equilibrium. Dark energy and golden light swirled together, and suddenly Sarah and Kieran were at the center of a vortex, magic tearing at them both. Sarah reached for Kieran's hand. He took it. And the magic found its balance. It poured into them equally, no longer binding or controlling but becoming part of them. Sarah felt Kieran's beast merge with her primordial power, felt her wildness temper his madness. The darkness and light spiraled together, finding harmony where there should have been only chaos. She felt his pain, his guilt, his desperate hope. He felt her rage, her loneliness, her unconquerable will. And together, they felt whole. The light exploded outward, silver and gold, blinding. When it cleared, Sarah and Kieran stood transformed. They weren't fully human. Weren't fully wolf. They were something in between, something new. Their eyes glowed, hers gold, his silver, with ancient power tempered by human compassion. Marks similar to Sarah's primordial runes appeared on Kieran's skin, but darker, shadowed. On Sarah's skin, dark marks like Kieran's scars appeared, but glowing faintly with inner light. They were balanced. Equal. Whole. The assembled wolves stared in awe. The prophecy, Elder Rathan whispered. Not unite or destroy. Unite and transform. Show us the path between civilization and wildness. No. Cordell's scream was desperate. He pulled a blade, lunging for Sarah. He didn't make it 2 steps. Marcus intercepted him, tackling the alpha to the ground. Enough. You've destroyed enough lives. Other wolves joined him, members of Cordell's own pack, their loyalty finally broken. They pinned their alpha, their faces disgusted. Alpha Cordell, Sarah's voice rang out, carrying authority but without the crushing dominance of before. You murdered my parents. Stole me. Bound me. Cursed Kieran. Tortured us both for your own ambition. The packs will judge you now, by their own laws. I demand single combat. Cordell shrieked. It's my right as Alpha. You lost that right when you rigged the right, Kieran said, his voice calm and sure. When you sent silver beasts against an opponent who fought fairly. You're no Alpha. You're just a murderer. The 5-pack Alphas conferred quickly, then Elder Rathan spoke. By unanimous decision, Alpha Cordell is stripped of his title and territory. He will be judged by the full Pack Council for crimes against Pack law, against the old ways, and against 2 of our own. Take him. Guards dragged Cordell away, his screams fading into the distance. Lyanna approached Sarah cautiously. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. For the lies, for my part in all this. But I need you to know, everything I did these last months, it was to free you. To give you the choice I never could give your mother. Sarah looked at the woman she'd called sister, saw the genuine remorse and grief. You loved her. My real mother. I did. She was everything. And when Cordell killed her, I couldn't save her. But I could save you. Could spend 20 years working toward this moment. Lyanna's eyes shone with tears. She'd be proud of who you've become. Sarah pulled Lyanna into an embrace. Thank you. For everything. For keeping part of my mother alive. For protecting me, even when I didn't know I needed it. Marcus approached next, his face uncertain. I know I don't have the right to ask, but, can you forgive me? For the rejection, for being too weak to see through Cordell's manipulation? I don't know, Sarah said honestly. Not yet. But maybe someday. She paused. You came back. You warned us. You fought Cordell. That counts for something. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it count for more. Kieran's hands slipped into Sarah's, his fingers intertwining with hers. She looked up at him, at this man who'd been her damnation and her salvation, and felt complete for the first time in her life. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now? Kieran looked out at the assembled packs, at the hundreds of wolves watching them with awe and hope. Now we show them what balance looks like. We make the Shadowlands a sanctuary for everyone the packs cast out, the forsaken, the different, the ones who don't fit their hierarchy. We prove that strength doesn't require domination. The united packs will need leaders, Elder Rathan said, approaching them. The prophecy spoke of unity, and you've shown us a way forward. Will you accept the responsibility? Become dual alphas of the United Territories? Sarah and Kieran looked at each other. She saw the question in his eyes, saw him waiting for her choice. And she realized, for the first time in her life, someone was truly asking. Not commanding, not manipulating. Just asking. Together, she said. Always together, he replied. Then yes, Sarah told Rathan. But not as rulers. As guides. We'll help the packs find their balance, but each pack keeps its autonomy. No more hierarchies where some are worth more than others. No more casting out those who are different. Agreed, the other alphas said, one by one. As the sun set and the blood moon began to rise, the third blood moon, the prophecy's moon, Sarah and Kieran stood before the assembled packs. No longer weapons. No longer broken. Just two wolves who'd found wholeness in each other. The rite is concluded. Elder Rathan announced. Sarah Whitmore is free, her autonomy recognized. Kieran Blackthorn has proven his claim. And together, they have shown us a new path. Let all packs witness and remember, this is the beginning of a new age. The wolves howled, hundreds of voices joining in harmony. And for the first time in centuries, it wasn't a sound of war or dominance. It was celebration. That night, as the blood moon reached its zenith, Sarah and Kieran ran together through the Shadowlands. Two wolves, one silver-white and glowing, one shadow-dark and powerful, racing through the forest as equals. The curse was broken. The binding was shattered. And in their place was something stronger. Choice. Trust. Love. Sarah's wolf turned to look at Kieran's, and in his silver eyes, she saw everything she'd ever wanted. Freedom. Acceptance. Home. They called me broken, she thought as they ran toward the moon, toward their future, toward everything they'd almost lost. But I was only waiting to find the one who could see me as complete. And in the distance, in the fortress that would become a sanctuary, Morgana smiled as she watched them go. Beside her, Lyanna wiped away tears, and Darius shook his head with fond exasperation. They're going to be insufferable, aren't they? Darius said. All that power, all that destiny fulfilled. Their egos will be massive. Probably, Morgana agreed. But they earned it. The Shadowlands had been a place of exile, of madness and isolation. But under the Blood Moon's light, with two balanced alphas running free, it was becoming something new. A place of second chances. Of transformation. Of proving that broken things, when given love and time and trust, could become stronger than they ever were whole. Sarah and Kieran ran until dawn, racing the moonlight, chasing each other through their territory now, not a prison but a home. And when they finally stopped, collapsing together in a clearing as the sun rose, they shifted back to human form and simply held each other. No more running, Kieran murmured against her hair. No more hiding, Sarah agreed. Just us. Just us. Finally free. Finally whole. And under the fading blood moon, two wolves who'd been forged as weapons but chose to become something better closed their eyes and slept, safe in each other's arms, knowing that whatever came next, they would face it together. Balanced. Equal. Unbreakable. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but not in the way anyone expected. Sarah hadn't united the packs through domination or burned them all to ash. She'd shown them something more radical, more revolutionary. That strength could be gentle. That power could be shared. That the greatest destiny wasn't to rule alone but to find the one person who made you complete, and build something beautiful with them from the ashes of what tried to destroy you. They'd been called broken, defective, cursed. But they'd been wrong. They'd just been waiting to be found. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.